Chapter 10. Slow Burn.
Something tells me I'll never learn.
Rick called me, Izuku said as he flipped through the photographs on his camera. Katsuki was sitting cross-legged on the ground and hunched over his coffee table. A laptop was opened towards him. Told you, he replied nonchalantly as he glanced back and forth between his phone and laptop screen. The paintings in his apartment were long gone, his furniture rearranged to its prior state. Izuku was seated comfortably in Katsuki's armchair. Missy eyed him from across the room. Izuku ignored her. I can't believe he made me wait almost 2 weeks, Izuku continued. You weren't joking about him stringing people along. No, Katsuki said. Head's been doing it to me for nearly a year. Izuku looked up from his camera. Over the past couple of weeks he and Katsuki had developed a strange sort of friendship. After Izuku had returned to drop off the disc that Katsuki wanted only to have the blonde slam the door in his face a couple of hours later, Izuku had started to pick up on a pattern. Firstly, Katsuki would message Izuku. This could take anywhere from a couple of days to a week. Secondly, Katsuki would fabricate some reason to have Izuku over. Lastly, Katsuki would throw Izuku out of his apartment a few hours later. When this routine happened for the third time, Izuku learned to stop taking it personally. He didn't understand what was going on inside of Katsuki's head, but once he became familiar with the process, he decided to leverage it as an opportunity to explore Katsuki's boundaries. Izuku tried to reciprocate Katsuki's invitations several times, but Katsuki abhorrently refused to go anywhere near Izuku's apartment. He'd given a variety of excuses, but Izuku suspected it had something to do with what had happened during Halloween. Izuku was okay with that. If Katsuki wanted to have control over the parameters of their relationship, Izuku would happily let him. He was fairly certain that Katsuki only wanted to be friends anyways. Not that it stopped Izuku from flirting with him from time to time. Izuku's head lolled to the side. He noted the endearing furrow in Katsuki's brow as he worked, his jaw taut as he chewed on the inside of his cheek. Izuku shook his head and turned his attention back to his camera. I have a job with him on Thursday, he said. I'm sure it'll work out for you too. Katsuki grunted. Izuku chuckled. He chanced another glance at the blonde. I was contacted by one of the bands you competed against too, he said mischievously. The graffiti artists. They found my work on social media and want to do a promotional shoot. Izuku stretched his arms above his head. His biceps had gained a little girth. He'd need more before someone like Katsuki took notice though. I'm getting pretty popular. Katsuki's head shot up. He glared at Izuku. Izuku's spine tingled. You think getting a call or two makes you popular? Katsuki demanded. He grabbed his phone and held it out towards Izuku, using his thumb to scroll through an endless barrage of emails. Come back to me when your inbox looks like this. Wow, Izuku said, leaning forward. Are those all for your tour? Pretty much, Katsuki grumbled. He set his phone down irritably. Venue confirmations, hotel bookings, people being useless, advance ticket numbers, all kinds of bull. Izuku knitted his brow. I can't believe you manage everything by yourself, he said. Have you ever thought about letting Kirishima or Mina help? Izuku had attempted to reconcile with Kirishima but things had admittedly become awkward since the Battle of the Bands. They'd had a brief conversation once and Izuku had left it at that. At least Kirishima knew that Izuku didn't think badly of him. Katsuki snarled. What, you think I can't handle it, he said. Izuku regarded Katsuki. He looked like his usual sullen self, save for a visible darkening of the skin under his eyes. I just hope you are not driving yourself into the ground, Izuku said. F off, Katsuki snapped. What are you, my mom? I sincerely hope not, Izuku replied. Katsuki stared at Izuku. Izuku froze. He could almost see Katsuki's mind debating whether to throw him out. Eventually Katsuki rolled his eyes and returned to his work. Izuku relaxed. He remained quiet for a few moments before he changed the subject. How long are you going to be gone, he asked. 6 weeks, Katsuki said. We're kicking off New Year's Eve. Gonna destroy the entire East Coast. Geez. That's in like 2.5 weeks. Izuku hadn't realized he was going to be losing Katsuki so soon. Katsuki nodded derisively. Yeah, he said, gesturing towards his laptop. So maybe stop yapping so damn much. I've got to do. Let me help, Izuku said. Katsuki closed his eyes and released a burdened sigh. No, he said. Izuku frowned. I mean it, he said. He leaned forward until he could see Katsuki's laptop screen. What are you working on? Finances? If I can't help you with that, give me something else to do. Katsuki reached over and put his hand on Izuku's face. No, he repeated. He pushed Izuku back into the armchair. Izuku growled. He didn't particularly enjoy having his face used in such a manner. Kukin, he protested. He slid off the armchair and settled onto the floor. You're always busy. There must be something I can do to help, even if it's small. Katsuki stared at Izuku. Jesus, he said. Do you ever let up? Izuku grinned. Almost never, he said. You're a real pain in the ass, you know that. Izuku smirked. Well, at least I've got one thing going for me. Izuku realized almost immediately that he should have thought his wording through more carefully. Katsuki's brows rose into his hairline, and Izuku reddened. Get out, Katsuki said. Ugh, Izuku said, flustered. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Get out, Deku. Izuku groaned and rose to his feet. He didn't need to be told again. I'll see you later, Ka-chan. Like hell. Izuku did see Katsuki later. Whoa, is that the variant edition of All Might issue 117? Izuku asked excitedly, pulling the partially obscured comic out from between a stack of books. He'd been going through his latest concert photos when something that looked an awful lot like a comic book had caught his eye. Don't touch my stuff, Katsuki groused, his head jerking up from his phone. Izuku, undeterred, turned the plastic-encased comic over delicately. Oh, wow, he breathed. It really is. I could never get my hands on one of these. They only printed 1,000 copies. Izuku sighed longingly as he turned it over again. This was one of only 3 covers that depicted All Might facing off against the impenetrable fortress. I've seen it once before, but it wasn't for sale. Katsuki's expression gradually morphed from annoyance into condescending awe. You effing nerd, he said. Izuku flushed. I don't know how you can call me that, he said. Isn't this yours? You told me not to touch your stuff. Oh, so you can hear me? Katsuki snapped. He grabbed the comic back from Izuku and set it aside with great care. Izuku smiled. It is yours, then. Katsuki scowled. It's old, he said. I was gonna sell it. Izuku's eyes lit up. I'll buy it off you, he said. Katsuki's scowl turned into a glare. F off, Deku. Izuku started to laugh. Ah, come on, he said. Just admit that you like the All Might comics. No way in hell. Kukin, Izuku said teasingly, his smile becoming devious. I won't tell anyone. F off. Izuku brought his hand to his chin in mock contemplation. I'm trying to remember the name of that one hero, Izuku said. He squinted. The guy who had the ability to temporarily take away anyone's powers. Take away. Take away, man. No, there was something about erasing. He looked at Katsuki expectantly. Katsuki clenched his jaw. If you think I'm going to fall for that dumb bull, you've got another thing coming, he said. Izuku continued, even though his inner fanboy was squirming. There was one villain who really creeped me out as a kid too. The guy with all the hands. What was his name? Handman? No, I think he had a proper name. Tom. Tom. Oh, for F's sake, Deku. Katsuki exploded, his face contorting. It was Eraserhead and effing Shigaraki Tomura, you idiot. How the hell can you pretend not to remember them? They were f***ing iconic in both the original series as well as... Katsuki stopped suddenly. Izuku clutched his sides as he convulsed with laughter. I knew it, he exclaimed. I knew you were a fan from the moment you mentioned the Platinum editions. Tears welled up in Izuku's eyes. Ka-chan. I'm so happy. Katsuki's face erupted into a dashing crimson. F you effing F, he sputtered eloquently. You effing. Get out. Izuku couldn't stop laughing. No, he gasped. Don't kick me out. I'm so glad that you're an All Might fan too. He's my favorite ow. Katsuki grabbed Izuku's arm and twisted it behind his back. Out, he said through gritted teeth. Ugh. Izuku protested as Katsuki forced him towards the door. How many times are you going to throw me out? Katsuki opened his apartment door and shoved Izuku into the hallway. He kicked Izuku's boots out after him. As many as I need to, Katsuki replied, grabbing Izuku's coat and thrusting it into his arms before slamming the door shut. Okay, then. Izuku called out, a big dopey smile on his face. Have a good night. This tastes like it was forged in the pits of hell, Izuku commented mildly while tears streamed down his cheeks. A bowl of spicy chili balanced precariously in his lap as he sat on Katsuki's kitchen counter. Katsuki regarded Izuku contemplatively. He sampled the chili straight from the bubbling pot and shook his head in disappointment. He added more chili flakes then began deftly dicing jalapenos. Izuku watched him, staggered. How are you doing this? He asked, shoveling another bite of painfully delicious chili into his mouth. I'm amazed you haven't burned all your taste buds off. You're weak, Katsuki replied. This is nothing. I bet you've never eaten a ghost pepper. Of course not. Izuku retorted. He wiped his face with his sleeve. Who the hell sits down and eats a ghost pepper? Katsuki glanced at Izuku from over his shoulder. You're crazy, Izuku said in amazement. This hadn't been quite what Izuku had expected when Katsuki had texted him earlier that day, although he supposed there were worse meanings for the phrase I need a victim. Katsuki snorted. It ain't that hot, he said. He scraped the jalapenos into the pot. What's all this for anyways? Izuku asked. Is Kirishima having another party? Mind your own business, Katsuki shot back. Izuku persisted. That's why you came to his Halloween party, right, he said. Even though you were busy. Because you said you'd cook for everyone. Katsuki's shoulders tightened. Dunno what the hell you're talking about, he muttered, aggressively stirring the contents of the pot. Izuku took another bite. That's really sweet, you know, he said. He waved his hand in front of his eyes. Katsuki turned, thrusting the dirty ladle towards Izuku. Wanna die? He asked, his expression ferocious. I think I'm already dying, Izuku said, sniffling. He looked at Katsuki's glaring face and smiled. Katsuki held onto his glare, but after a moment his expression softened. Yeah, well good, he said. Katsuki may be frowning, but he wasn't angry. Izuku could tell. Their eyes held each other in place for a heartbeat, and Izuku found himself trapped in Katsuki's gaze for the umpteenth time. He distractedly watched Katsuki's brow slowly crease, his eyes shifting into uncertainty. Izuku wanted to kiss him very badly, but he wouldn't. Katsuki broke the moment with an exaggerated eye roll. He turned back to the stove. Izuku grinned. God, you're cute. The words slipped out of his mouth. Katsuki whirled around. Ha. Izuku fumbled. Get out. Izuku would have thrown his hands up if they weren't otherwise occupied. Let me finish this first, he said stubbornly, stuffing an unnecessarily large forkful of chili into his mouth. Katsuki crossed the kitchen in 2 easy steps and grabbed the bowl away from Izuku. Waka-chan. Izuku squawked as Katsuki pulled him off the countertop. Katsuki grabbed Izuku by the wrist and dragged him towards the door. I really wanted that, Izuku complained, digging his heels into the hardwood as best he could. Izuku was no match for Katsuki. Within seconds, Izuku was unceremoniously shoved out the front door. Hey, wait. The door slammed shut. Izuku groaned, hopping from foot to foot. Ka-chan, he shouted. I need my boots. There was no response. Izuku knocked on the door. I'm not going anywhere without my stuff, he asserted. There's snow outside. One of Katsuki's neighbors took this opportunity to step outside their apartment. Izuku waved at the woman and smiled. She shot Izuku a strange look before disappearing into the stairwell. Izuku sat down in front of Katsuki's apartment door. I'm not leaving without my things, he called out. The apartment door finally opened a solid 5 minutes later. Katsuki was scowling, although that trace of uncertainty was still present. He tossed Izuku's coat and boots at him. Get out of here, Deku, he said gruffly. Izuku pulled his coat off his head. The door had already closed. He was surprised, however, to see a rectangular object tied up in a plastic bag sitting on the floor in front of him. He had a pretty good idea as to what it was judging by the smell. The next day, Izuku brought the leftover chili to work for lunch. He nearly choked and had to down 3 glasses of water before the burn left his tongue. Ugh, Izuku said, his legs hanging over the arm of Katsuki's armchair. Missy was perched on the back of it. She eyed Izuku from below her. How can one person be so unphotogenic? What are you whining about now? Katsuki asked as he rearranged a stack of cardboard boxes. Izuku turned his laptop towards Katsuki. The graffiti artists, he said. We had a great photo shoot yesterday in an old warehouse near my work. Everything went well, except for one thing. Izuku flipped through a series of images to illustrate his point. In nearly every photo, the band's drummer was blinking, or smiling oddly, or frowning in a way that made him look obstructed. Katsuki snorted. Brutal. Izuku groaned. I tried to direct him, but he didn't want to listen to anything I had to say. Then he started getting mad at me because I kept singling him out. Izuku went through a few more photographs. Maybe I could splice him into the final images, he contemplated. There's one or two photos here that are somewhat passable. Or you could tell whoever's managing the band to kick him out. Ka-chan, Izuku admonished. That's horrible. What would you do if someone told you to kick Kirishima out of the anti-heroes? Katsuki pulled a cardboard box off the top of the pile. Probably tell them to eat, and die, he said casually. Izuku gestured towards Katsuki in exasperation. Whatever, Katsuki said. He spread out the rest of the boxes on the floor in a semicircle. Izuku watched Katsuki as he sat down and opened the box in front of him. What ya doing? He asked. Inventory, Katsuki grunted. He pulled out a thick stack of black t-shirts. Izuku's eyes lit up. Great, he said. I'll help. Katsuki clenched his jaw. Don't need your help, Deku, he said, his eyebrow twitching. Izuku opened a spreadsheet on his laptop. I'll throw together a quick chart so you can access the data quickly, he said. Just give me the numbers and I'll pop them in for you. Katsuki glowered at him. Don't you have to do? I've got time, Izuku said easily. He'd been waiting for an opportunity to assist Katsuki for a while now. You leave in a few days, right? The sooner you get this done, the sooner you can move on to other things. Izuku named the file and smiled warmly at Katsuki. How many shirt designs do you have? I've seen 4, but are there others? Katsuki stared Izuku down, his scowl deepening. Izuku's smile didn't leave his face for a moment. Eventually Katsuki huffed and averted his eyes. There's 5, he muttered. We've got a handful of leftovers from a couple years back. Okay, Izuku said, trying very hard not to let his excitement show. He code-named the 4 shirts then added a 5th entry. What sizes do you carry? Katsuki glared at the stack of shirts in his hands. Small to XXL, he said. Izuku beamed. Got it, he said. He filled the column headings in accordingly. All right. Hit me. Katsuki gave Izuku the evil eye. Stop looking so goddamn happy, will you, he said. It's pissing me off. Izuku shrugged innocently, a small smile still curling the corners of his lips. Katsuki cursed under his breath. He began dividing the shirts by design and size. Within minutes he was calling out quantities for Izuku to enter. It didn't take long to get through the shirts. Want me to email this to you? Izuku asked. Katsuki glared at Izuku. We ain't done, he said. He grabbed a pile of F-Pinky t-shirts. Give me the numbers for Pink Face. Start at small. Izuku examined his spreadsheet. 17, 18, 12, 10, 8. Katsuki paused in thought. Add a new row, he instructed. 15, 15, 10, 5, 5. Right, Izuku said, following Katsuki's orders. What are we doing? Katsuki began splitting up the shirts again. He placed most of them into an empty box and set the rest aside. You think we've got room to bring all this crap? Katsuki asked, gesturing at the boxes around him. Mobile ain't that big. We'll bring what we can sell. Makes sense, Izuku said. He wondered if he'd ever stop being awed over all the small details needed to be taken into account in order to successfully run a band. It wasn't unlike all the adjustments Izuku needed to know in order to achieve certain shots and effects with his camera. Izuku was brought back to the present by an unexpected tug at his hair. He reached up gingerly and came into contact with Missy's face and teeth as she chewed on one of his curls. Izuku gently pushed Missy's face away. She mewed in protest. Stop eating my hair, Izuku gently scolded her. Missy nipped his finger. Izuku sighed and retracted his hand. He'd learned that ignoring Missy seemed to be the most effective way to deal with the temperamental feline. Half a second later he felt another tug at his head. Katsuki watched the exchange with a strange expression. Huh, he said. Izuku couldn't identify what Katsuki meant by that but decided to let it go. Next shirt, he said, determined to keep everything on track and prove his worth. They went through the remainder of the t-shirts relatively quickly. Katsuki provided revised numbers while redistributing the shirts and Izuku tacked the new information onto his spreadsheet with efficiency. Once they completed their task, Izuku whistled. Looks like you're bringing over 200 shirts, he said, adding up the numbers. Think you'll sell them all? Katsuki closed the top of a second box. He grabbed a marker off the floor and scribbled some notes across the side. Probably, he said. We sold nearly 30 at that stupid battle competition. 37 shows should get rid of the rest. Izuku balked. You're doing 37 shows in 6 weeks, he asked. That didn't leave a whole lot of time for recovery and travel between gigs. You guys go hard. Katsuki looked at Izuku with derision. What do you think tours are? Izuku thought for a moment. A way to make money and grow your fan base, he suggested. A way to get signed, Katsuki corrected. He reached up over his head and cracked his back. There's some good alternative labels along the coast. We're hitting up every single goddamn city where they have a presence. I made a list of venues that scouts are known to frequent months back and got in touch with most of them. We're gonna tear the walls down every effing night. He got to his feet and stacked the 2 newly packed boxes on top of each other. It was plain to see the sheer amount of effort that Katsuki had put into this tour. I guess you guys are going to come back famous, Izuku said wryly. He couldn't entirely hide his somber tone. Everyone will be falling all over you and you won't have time to hang out with me anymore. Katsuki looked at Izuku. That's the plan, he muttered. He was silent for a long time before he spoke again. We've been doing this for over 4 years. This is our 3rd major tour and 3rd album. We've only gotten better. Our fan base is getting bigger. Katsuki's hand curled into a fist on top of the boxes. This is gonna be the big one. I can tell. It's gotta be. Katsuki's expression was fierce, but Izuku could have sworn he saw something else flash across his face for the briefest of moments. He looked very much like a warrior ready for battle. If Katsuki believed that this would be their big break, then Izuku decided it must be true. His determination was inspirational. It made Izuku want to push himself harder, to go further than he'd ever dared. I'm sure it will be, Izuku said encouragingly. You guys work hard, and you're really talented. You deserve it. Katsuki's eyes met Izuku's, his gaze losing its usual hard edge. Izuku wasn't sure what it meant, but he couldn't tear his eyes away from Katsuki. Katsuki finally looked away, his fist unclenching. He stared at his open palm. Effing right, he muttered. He set the packed boxes off to the side. Albums are next, he informed Izuku. Izuku nodded. Okay, he said, turning his attention back to his spreadsheet. They continued their work, moving through the remaining merchandise with ease. Yeah, Izuku said. He tidied up his rows and columns while Katsuki closed the top of a 3rd box and added notes. That's a lot of swag. It's not that bad, Katsuki replied. He moved all 3 boxes closer to the apartment entrance. The equipment is what takes up most of the space. Izuku chuckled. I kind of want to see your tour van, he said. It must have a lot of personality. It's a effing box on wheels, Katsuki retorted. Piece of, barely runs. Izuku laughed. Katsuki finished with the boxes then sauntered over to Izuku. Let's see what you have, he said. He picked Missy up off the chair, a wet curl falling from her mouth. She yowled when Katsuki set her down on the floor. Izuku sat up properly so Katsuki could see the screen better. How's this? He asked. I color-coded everything and enlarged the numbers on your tour inventory. It should be easy to glance at. Katsuki frowned. Good enough for now, he said. Email it to me. Sure thing, Izuku said, beaming. When Izuku opened his email he discovered an unread message. Oh, he said, clicking on it. Katsuki glanced at the message and snorted. Looks like you're in with, he said. He settled onto the arm of the chair and pulled out his phone. A slow smile spread over Izuku's face. Looks that way, he said. He picked up his phone and popped a new date into his calendar. It might not be anything close to what you guys are getting, but 3 paid jobs in a little over 2 weeks is a definite start. Izuku sent the spreadsheet to Katsuki, then shot off a reply to Rick. You know, Izuku said thoughtfully, I've been trying to figure out what I can do to push myself further towards photojournalism. These shows have been great, but I think I need to go in a more topical direction. He closed his laptop and set it aside. I've been trying to come up with ideas for a personal project lately. It'd be cool if I could get something published. The problem is that not a lot of people want to pick up amateurs. Izuku paused. I could also find an event to photograph and try to sell the images to a news outlet, but it's hard to know where to be and when. He sighed. Sorry if I'm rambling. I guess I need to pay better attention to what's happening within the city and develop a better sense of timing. I feel like I only ever hear about protests and crises after they've happened. Katsuki eyed Izuku warily. You want to shoot a protest? He deadpanned. I think it'd be a step in the right direction, Izuku replied. He looked at Katsuki inquiringly. Why? Katsuki's eyes narrowed. You ever been to one before? He asked. Izuku's eyes widened. Ka-chan. If you know about something, please tell me, he implored him. It'd mean a lot to me. Oh, F off, Katsuki said. You don't look like you'd last 2 seconds in that crowd. If I can handle one of your shows, I can handle anything, Izuku contested. Besides, we covered field work in college. Katsuki looked like he didn't believe Izuku for a minute. Izuku switched strategies. He sidled up closer to Katsuki. I'm flattered that you're worried about me though, he said. He nudged Katsuki's elbow and gave him a eating grin. Izuku could have sworn that he saw Katsuki's eyes do a full 360-degree rotation in their sockets. You're annoying, he muttered. He tapped out a message on his phone and sent it. Izuku's phone vibrated. He picked it up and saw a text from Katsuki containing nothing but an email address. Who's this? He asked excitedly. Some a-hole, Katsuki said. Drop my name. Say that you're a photographer who wants to document his event. He'll eat that up. What's the event? Izuku prodded. Katsuki hesitated. Pop-up protest, he said. He scowled at Izuku's smile of delight. Stop that, he snapped. You look like an idiot. Izuku closed his mouth. Sorry, he said. And don't go spreading this information around, Katsuki said sharply. Everyone's trying to keep things on the down low so the cops don't catch wind of it too early. Right, Izuku said. He tried not to squirm with excitement. Katsuki held his phone up in front of Izuku's face. The screen displayed an article highlighting a number of incidents of police brutality that had recently occurred in a particularly downtrodden area of the city. A couple of civilians had been hospitalized. There's been 7 batterings this month, Katsuki stated factually. The effing pigs involved are trying to stay out of the spotlight, dodging reporters, and all that. We ain't letting that stand. Katsuki grinned. Gonna give them a nasty little surprise. Izuku was impressed. It certainly sounded like something that news outlets would want to pick up. Katsuki's description concerned him, but Izuku couldn't deny that the cause seemed just. Sounds great, he said, then grimaced. If everything's on the down low, how do you know about it? He asked quickly. Katsuki shot Izuku a dirty look. Pull your head out of your ass every once in a while and look at the city, he said. If you care enough about a cause, there's ways to get in touch with the movers and shakers. He sighed irritably. The 3 of us were gonna help out until that changed the date. Said he needed more time to gather everyone. So he lost us. Too effing bad for him. It was to be expected that a band like the Anti-Heroes wanted to be involved in a cause like this. Tear down the system, Izuku murmured to himself. He was already looking forward to contributing in his own way. Hey, Katsuki said. He jabbed Izuku in the chest with his index finger. Izuku blinked and looked at Katsuki. This guy's got a bit of a reputation. You got that, Deku? Katsuki warned. If things go south, you better know how to handle yourself. Katsuki's words and actions caused a sudden unexpected warmth to flow up inside of Izuku. If things get too ugly, I'll leave, he promised. This seemed to pacify Katsuki. He dropped his hand and looked away. Effing nerd, he grumbled. Izuku sat quietly with his thoughts while Katsuki dealt with his phone. Missy reappeared by their feet. She watched the 2 of them apprehensively. Does Missy have someone to watch her? Izuku asked. Landlady's taking care of it, Katsuki muttered, his eyes on his phone. She's a real crazy old bat. Already got 4 cats of her own. Izuku watched Missy's tail flick about. Will you miss her? He asked quietly. Deku, Katsuki groaned. She's a effing cat. Izuku sighed and rubbed his eyes. He looked at the boxes stacked by the apartment door and felt a pang of sadness. He'd gotten used to hanging out with Katsuki regularly. It was difficult knowing that they wouldn't be seeing each other for a long time. Then there was the tour. Izuku had seen the way fans threw themselves at Katsuki. If Katsuki wanted to have some fun, there'd be ample opportunity to do so. Thinking about it made Izuku feel ill, even though he knew he had no claim over Katsuki. I guess there's a fair amount of partying on tours, Izuku said hesitantly. Sex, drugs, rock and roll and all that. He laughed weakly. Katsuki raised an unconcerned eyebrow towards Izuku. For some bands, sure, he replied. Not the anti-heroes. Izuku asked hopefully. Huh? Katsuki seemed confused. I already told you, didn't I? Getting signed is all that matters. That didn't really answer Izuku's question, but Izuku didn't press any further. He felt guilty for bringing it up at all. Never mind, he said. Katsuki's eyes narrowed. The hell are you being so weird about? He demanded. Izuku shrugged. He clenched and unclenched his fists, then looked back at Katsuki. His eyes started to water. I'm going to miss you, he blurted. Katsuki seemed taken aback. His mouth opened in visible surprise. Izuku laughed nervously. Oh, he said. He knew what was coming. Get out. Izuku gently shook his head. No. Katsuki looked away from Izuku. Get out, he repeated. I'll go when I'm ready to. Deku. Ka-chan. Katsuki turned his head back around and glared. His eyes lacked their usual resolve. Izuku stuck his tongue out at Katsuki. No, ugh. Before Izuku knew what was happening, Katsuki had stood and hoisted Izuku up and over his shoulder. Arg, Kukin. Izuku cried out in astonishment and frustration. 1,000 pinpricks of electricity coursed through his body. Stop effing squirming, Katsuki said as he headed for the door. Izuku quickly dissolved into laughter over the sheer ridiculousness of the situation. He couldn't believe how easily Katsuki had picked him up. Izuku may be on the leaner side, but he was far from light. Ka-chan. Don't make me leave, he protested. He gripped Katsuki's back to steady himself. Izuku would have been a whole lot more upset if it wasn't for the fact that the pressure of Katsuki's arms on his lower back and thighs felt unbelievably amazing. He was a human lightning rod and Katsuki was the conductor. Katsuki shifted his grip on Izuku in order to open the door. He kicked Izuku's boots out into the hallway, then set Izuku down on his feet. He finally turned around and whipped Izuku's coat and satchel at him. Izuku started forward. Kadesh-chan. The door slammed shut. Izuku's face was on fire. He supposed he ought to be mad, but he only felt giddy. Ka-chan, he called out. Katsuki opened the door and shoved Izuku's laptop into his hands, his eyes glinting with amusement. He slammed the door shut again. Izuku laughed. He stepped closer to the door. Let me back in, he said. Go away, Deku. Katsuki's voice was muffled. Izuku growled. Ka-chan. Get lost. Katsuki's reply was so close that Izuku jerked back in surprise. He grinned. Izuku set his laptop down and pressed himself into the door, his face an inch from the jamb. He imagined Katsuki doing something similar on the other side, an old slab of wood the only thing occupying the space between them. Still laughing quietly, Izuku lowered his voice. "Kmin, let me back in, handsome," he crooned. "I promise I'll be good." Izuku heard Katsuki take a few heavy steps back. What the? Katsuki wheezed. The is wrong with you?" Izuku started to laugh uncontrollably. "I don't know," he said, stepping back himself. He brought his hands up to his hot face, his smile impossibly wide. Izuku heard a few wheezes, then a cough. Get out of here, you idiot." "Fine," Izuku said, still laughing quietly. He started to put his boots on. "Have a good tour, Ka-chan." "Knock 'em dead." "We always do." Izuku snickered. He slid his laptop into his satchel, then slung the bag over his shoulder. "I'll see you when you get back," he called out. He waved at the peephole, just in case. You effing wish. I do, Izuku said, and I will. With that final remark Izuku strode to the elevator. It was a busy night within the building, and the elevator took longer to come than usual. Izuku was glad for it when he overheard what sounded an awful lot like earnest laughter echoing quietly down the hallway. Izuku pressed his lips together, refusing to make a sound lest Katsuki realize he was still there. Katsuki's laugh lit up Izuku's heart the whole way home.